Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. Erling Haaland, should he be starting for Manchester City going forward after the international break, or should he be dropped? Should he be benched? Going off form, it's not been great, and I wanted to get into it and discuss the debate that's likely going to rage on throughout the international break during this time, which is a very boring time for Premier League fans and Manchester City fans who have to sit back and wait to find out if Erling Haaland is going to find his form when he gets back or not. It's a debate that I think has divided a lot of City fans as well, because I have seen numerous people on the absolute keep him in 100%. The guy's got a proven track record, and then others say I don't care what he did last season, this season's not been good enough, and people in the middle. And that's where I want to start really and divide the opinions evenly. Let's discuss them evenly. Let's have a rational conversation and talk about both the pros and the cons of Erling Haaland, what he's been doing well and what he's not been doing well. And then we'll start to get into the real nitty-gritty details of what has been happening this season for Erling Haaland. And at the end of the video, I'll give you my verdict as to whether I think he should or should not be starting for Manchester City. But let's start with the positives. And really thinking you don't have to go too far back. In terms of history, you're only going to last season. And to write Erling Haaland off is stupid, really. I think it really is quite stupid to write him off entirely, because the guy had 61 goal involvements last season. 61, you know? Some teams don't even score that many. This is an individual who's scoring more than some teams, or having more goal involvements than some teams. Incredible. 36 Premier League goals in 35 games, 12 Champions League goals in 11 Champions League games, 3 FA Cup goals in 4 FA Cup games, and a League Cup goal in 2 League Cup games. Phenomenal. That's genuinely phenomenal. He is a phenom. He is the creme de la creme. He's the top. We've not seen anything like it. It's unprecedented. We haven't seen anything like this. And he is now being held to standards that no striker in the world are being held to. Incredibly unfair standards. And he's gone 3 games without a goal. So I understand where City fans are coming from, because you look at it from a team perspective. That's the issue. He has been sacrificed right now. He is a decoy almost for the rest of the opposition, because we quite frequently see other teams double teaming Gabriel and Saliba, man-marked him out of the game. Numerous defences we went up against with Wolves and RB Leipzig prior to the Arsenal game, they just stifled Erling Haaland, just completely surrounded him and boxed him in, surrounded by defenders. And you try and have impact on a football match when you've got 3 people marking you. You know, you can't do it. The issue with that is you then look at Julian Alvarez, who's been playing fantastically well this season, and you say, well, that's his time to shine. And shine he has. He's stepped up to the plate, and he's banging in goals left, right and centre. But against Arsenal, he went missing. Alvarez did not have a good game against Arsenal. I thought he was well off the pace, didn't get involved as much as he could have done. And that's impacted the team's performance, because we've killed Erling Haaland. Arsenal killed Erling Haaland in killing the spaces for Erling Haaland, and therefore you hope Alvarez can step up and fill that void. And if he has a bad game, then we're in trouble. So it's starting to be highlighted, and the issue with it being on Erling Haaland as a decoy and sacrificed is when he does get a chance, the pressure is so much higher than it's ever been, because he's now in the frame of mind as this is probably my one and only chance in this game. I'm not getting 6 or 7 chances anymore. I'm getting 1 chance in a game. And that's because I'm stifled out, so I have to take it. And that builds the pressure. And that's a pressure that no striker has to deal with. No striker in the world has to deal with that. I really do. I do believe it's being a little bit harsh, but it's up to Pep now. Not Erling Haaland, it's up to Pep. And what I'm going to do now in between the pros and the cons is I'm going to bring up the stats and where this debate started. Because I think it started against West Ham. And those 2 open goals chances that he missed, that he should absolutely be putting in the back of the net. And I don't care what striker you're talking about. League 1 strikers, League 2 strikers. I expect myself to have put one of those in the back of the net. I'm not a striker, to be honest. When I play football, I'm not a striker. But if I had one of those 2 chances, I think I'd put one of them in the net. You know, it was 2 open goals, clear cut. So that was poor finishing from Erling Haaland. But starting with the West Ham stats, you can see straight away he's getting the opportunities. 9 shots, 6 of them on target. Brilliant. These are my player ratings, by the way, so you can even see the player rating that I gave him. But at the end of the game, what does he do? He gets his goal. And another thing I want to highlight in that game against West Ham is Bernardo Silva's goal. Erling Haaland watched that roll into the back of the net in that game. Bernardo Silva dinks it into the far corner, and Erling Haaland had the opportunity to just finish it and make sure it goes in. It was going in anyway, but what does he do? The good team player that he is, thinking about his teammates rather than himself and the selfish goal records that most strikers think about. He thinks, I'll just let that roll into the net. I can think of plenty of strikers that wouldn't have done that and scored for themselves to get their goal tally one more, because Erling Haaland could have had 2 goals in this game. We'd be talking about 9 Premier League goals in 8 Premier League games for Erling Haaland, okay? But he didn't. He let it in for Bernardo Silva. Then against Red Star, that's when the problems started to appear a little bit more frequently, with only 2 shots on target this time, but 6 in total. So the chances were there. He hasn't scored in the Champions League yet, of course, but he was smashing the bar. Glazer, save after save. 2 or 3 very good saves from Glazer in net for Red Star that prevented Erling Haaland from getting a very deserving goal in that game. I thought he played reasonably well, and the passing accuracy is decent as well, which is not normally his game. Nottingham Forest, again, gets his goal, but the chance creation was limited in this game. I don't think he was getting as many chances as you can see. 2 shots, 1 on target. One of them ends up in the back of the net with a big booming header in the first half. Then against Wolves, more and more the problems start to appear and the chances are getting smaller and smaller for him. He's only got 1 shot and 1 on target. He could have got a goal in that game after Nunes fired it across the face of goal and Craig Dawson intercepted. Erling Haaland was about to tap it into an empty net. That was in about the first 5 minutes of the game. So these little details are affecting the opinion of Erling Haaland that I think, eventually all these details iron them out and the cream rises to the top. The quality of Erling Haaland will eventually shine through. But the form is alarming, and it's not just a case of Erling Haaland, it's a case of the team. Because those shots on target, that's a case of where's the supply? Why is he not getting these shots on target? Or getting the availability to even take a shot, And then against RB Leipzig, back, quality performance. I thought he played really well. I thought he was all right. Not really well, but he was good. Still, 6 shots, 2 on target, but there were some chances in that game. Some chances that I think even he would be like, yeah, I spurned some big ones in that game that were decent opportunities. That one was an acute angle that arguably should either be passing it to Guardiola, who's waiting in the 6-yard box, or getting it on target, because one of them was 1-on-1 with the keeper and he puts it wide. At a very tight angle, mind you, but still, you've got to be getting that on target. Then on to Arsenal, and we saw it even worse. That's where we saw the peak of the problem, really, with 0 shots on target, and he was completely stifled out of the game. And now we get onto the negatives, and really, I've sort of highlighted it, really, why this is a problem, because the goal, that you can put a spin on anything, really, and it depends how you want to look at it, because people talk about the 52 goals that he got last season, which is incredible. There was plenty of hat-tricks in there, and right now he's got himself plenty of braces as well as a hat-trick. Earlier on, it was Fulham, wasn't it? He got himself a hat-trick against Fulham. So then you start talking about, okay, well, he's got those 8 goals in Premier League games, but it was 2 and a 3 in 2 games. Whereas more ideally, let's say he scored against Wolves, we'd be coming away with a point. If he scored against Arsenal, we'd be coming away with a point. Instead of spreading your goal, instead of inserting your goals into 3 goals per game type of situations and then not scoring in the next 2, which still gives you 3 goals in 3 games, ideally, if in the perfect world, which is an incredibly harsh thing to ask of somebody, it should be a goal a game, quite literally a goal a game. Not on the ratio side of things, and the literal side of things, a goal a game. Because that way we'd have 2 more points right now and we'd be top of the league. If Haaland had scored against Wolves and if he'd scored against Arsenal, which he had no chances to do that, but still, in the hypothetical scenario I'm trying to paint the picture for you, we'd be top of the league. So spreading those goals out a bit more evenly would be nicer. And then you look at the end of last season's form. He didn't score in a single cup final. In the FA Cup final, didn't play well really against United, didn't get involved as much as he could have. Same again against Inter Milan. He didn't score in the FA Cup semi-final against Sheffield United, yet he played. He didn't score in the semi-finals against Real Madrid in either of the legs. And then he didn't score in 2 of the final 3 games in the Premier League, 1 in which he didn't even play for, but the final 2 Premier League games he didn't score. So that form, you were thinking, I hope it doesn't carry on into the next season. And it sort of hasn't, because he scored in the first 5 minutes against Burnley as soon as the Premier League started. So it's like, bang, Haaland's back. And that is a potential indication of the peaks and troughs of Erling Haaland and his form, and why I'm not convinced we should be writing him off yet. And the dependency on Alvarez is a really interesting one, and I think Pep has got his work cut out for him right now. And I think he has to resolve this situation. But in my opinion, I guarantee you, Erling Haaland is smashing them into the back of the net, right in the goal hole. smashing them in training. I guarantee you Pep's watching him doing it week in, week out, day in, day out, bang, 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 goal after goal. I think Erling Haaland deserves the next 2 Premier League games, the next 3 games, of which is Brighton, Young Boys, and then Man United. 2 huge Premier League games either side of that Champions League game. He hasn't scored in the Champions League yet, so we need to get him off the ground with regards to goals in the Champions League. Then we need to see him get back to his best against Brighton at home. Hopefully the home form can bode well for him and find his feet in the home game against Brighton. And then, of course, it's United, the Manchester derby. And that's hopefully if we get a repeat of the same performance that he put in at the Etihad last season with a hat-trick, So hopefully he can do that same again. But I think Pep's absolutely right. He says you do not criticise Erling Haaland. You criticise the crosser of the ball. You criticise the midfielder who's not supplying him. You don't criticise a player who got 61 goal involvements last season, because you'll be apologising to him at the end of the season. Pep is exactly right, in my opinion, and that's why, to give you an answer, Haaland should not be dropped. Absolutely not. He deserves the next 3 games. If in 3 games' time we're talking about a goal drought that's gone on for 6 games and Erling Haaland's getting no chances, then it's a case of we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to potentially revise this new system and either find a place for Erling Haaland in a new system or create the system without Erling Haaland, and Alvarez has to go up top. They're your 2 options. But who's to say he won't score in those next 3 games? I'm quite confident that he will score. I want to see him score in the Premier League games. That's what I want to see, because I think Young Boys won't be a real fair indication of whether he's back or not, because we should be beating them comfortably and he should be scoring against that type of opposition. Brighton and United, on the other hand, are 2 teams that are going to pose a genuine threat and try to do what other teams have done recently against Erling Haaland and kill him in the game, stifle him and destroy all the spaces that he needs to operate. If they do that and they keep him quiet, I still think even a goal against Young Boys might not be enough to answer the questions. But a goal in the Premier League, if he gets 1 or even 2, he's back. He'll be back. And Blues will be back. And this is form that's not too unfamiliar to City fans. I think we need to recognise the position we're in and remember last season that we don't need to make it all doom and gloom, because at the end of the season is where it matters. And that's when City, if we're within touching distance, and really touching distance for City is 8 points, we're 2 points off. If we're within 6-7 games to go and we're 8 points behind anybody, we can catch them, because they know, they're scared, they're terrified of us. And hopefully Erling Haaland can have a massive, massive role in City's season going forward from this point on, after the international break. Come back, hit the ground running, goal, 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 goal. That's what you want to see, and I've got a good feeling we will. I'm hoping we will. Blues, get in the comments below. What are your opinions? Where do you think Erling Haaland should be in a Manchester City team? Should he be on the bench or should he be starting the next few games? Get your comments in below. I really want to hear them. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.